Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the annual meeting of the Cambridgeshire Police and Crime Panel. The order of the agenda just needs to change slightly because items 4 and 5, election of chairman and election of vice chairman, need to come first in the meeting. So if we move them up to the start of the meeting, we'll open with the election of chairman. I'll need any nominations, please, for chairman. Can you go ahead as well?
Yes, I'd like to nominate Dr. Brian Kelly for the year.
Okay, do we have a second of that nomination?
Yeah, I'm happy to second that nomination.
Okay. Are there any other nominations? Okay, Councillor Maguire.
Thank you.
Please assume your position as chairman.
Thank you for that. Electing as chairman again. Right, moving on to the next one, which should be also near the top, the election of vice chairman. But I nominate former chair Councillor Irene Walsh as vice chairman of the ensuing year.
Oh, sorry, I'm probably jumping the gun. I'm happy to second that.
Oh, right, sorry, yes, I have nominated the yes, I'll come back to it. Any other nominations? No, in that case, Councillor Walsh is vice chairman for the ensuing year. Before we do move on, clearly our first year was only a part of the reform, so this will be the first meeting of our full first year. My own view is that we should circulate the chairmanship on an annual basis. I don't know how others feel about that, maybe something we've got a future agenda, but that's my own view, and I'd like to think that people consider doing that. But I'll ask what you've got on there as an agenda. Because we do have some members missing, some of the representatives from the district and at least one city representatives missing. So. Okay, right, moving on then. Apologies for absence.
Yes, we have apologies from Councillor Vic. There's Councillor Ryan who's here from Cambridge City.
Right.
Councillor Els who's given us apologies, and also independent member Roger Ali.
Right. So was that Ryan? Sorry, Councillor Ryan?
Ryan.
Sorry. Shall I get the name back because I can't see the name. I can see it facing the right way up my eyes. Okay. Declarations of interest. Is there anything on the agenda that members feel they ought to declare interest in? No? Okay, thank you. Minutes of the meeting held on the 21st of March. For those of us who are present, are we content to set those as a true record?
Agreed.
Good, thank you. For the benefit of those who haven't been to Tories, only checking the minutes for accuracy, but that we don't have matters a lot. Right, that moves us on to what is number 6 on our agenda, pages 7 to 8, which are decisions by Commissioner. Who's come to read on this? Are we going to ask the Commissioner to read on it? Yes. Okay. Before you do sit around, it might be as well if you, I'm sure most people know who you are by now, but you might want to introduce your team for the benefit of the new members. So before we do that, I would just like to remind members that we do have the role of scrutinising this commission, so these are some of the decisions we make. But what we are suggesting is from the officers of a member is that if we decide we want to scrutinise any of these decisions, then we ought to have a full detailed report on them, so we would put that on the agenda for a future meeting rather than try and do it now, because you don't have sufficient information other than what we may receive verbally. Is that fair enough? Yes. Okay. So Graham, would you like to introduce your team to the benefit largely of the members?
Of course. First of all, Dr. Dorothy Gregson, who is Chief Executive. Brian Ashton, who is the Deputy Commissioner. And John Emerson, who is the Treasurer.
Thank you. So, I'll hand over to you or to whoever you're going to talk to about the actual decision you've made, and just give us a brief summary of why you're writing.
Well, I think you have a complete list of decisions. The main one, I think, is obviously the police and crime plan. And if you want to know any more about that, I'm happy to talk to you. I thank you for the fact that you agreed that that could go forward. It is published, it's on the website. And interestingly enough, we have a little abridged version as well, because it's rather heavy for someone to go through that. That's been quite useful if people want to know a little bit about it. So that gives them a taste out of what it is. But if anyone wants total detail, then it is on the website. And I think that if you read Police and Crime Plan, and the more I read it, the more I find that we literally covered everything, unless you think otherwise. So if anyone wants me to say any more about that, I'm happy to.
I think Mr. Graham, as the saw the police and crime plan, and we've agreed it anyway, I don't think we need to go into any further detail. We just say it is online.
And as I explained, Mr. Chairman, it is something that we do intend reviewing, rather than having it set in stone. So if we get various issues that come along that we feel are quite fully addressed in that, then we will modify and obviously report back to you.
It's a dynamic document in that sense. Okay, thank you. Does anybody want to start? Ben, you want to start?
Yeah, just on the plan itself, at the last meeting we made several recommendations, observations on it, and I just would like to know if they are going to be duly considered within the plan itself, because I can't see anywhere here where they have been considered. Some of them may not be appropriate, but I would have thought at least one or two would have perhaps worked its way into the plan itself, because we scrutinised it at a meeting before. So I just wanted clarification on that.
Yes, we did in fact talk about the risk management side of things. And interestingly enough, if you look at the website, we've now posted that up, and we'll continue to update it and put more information there, so that you can track exactly where we're going and the results that we're getting. As you know, I didn't accept that we had targets. Your point that came up, and I think what we've done is actually address that fully in what we've done, and that is now on the website for everyone to see. So that was I thought an important issue, and I started to look at that very carefully to ensure that we address it, because we're not trying to hide anything, we just want to put it up so that you can monitor us and the public can monitor us.
We didn't bring it back to this meeting, we did put it on the agenda for the July meeting.
Sure.
Okay.
And it's already, we've already put it up, and there's more to come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's an ongoing, that will be an ongoing thing, obviously, it has to be.
Anything else on the actual plan? No, but I suggest we move on to Graham on to some of the other decision items that you've got listed here.
So we can say that anything specific, obviously, we'll deal with it, but perhaps one of the largest issues there is the decision I made to extend the Chief Constable's contract to December 2016. That was a decision we took because Chief Constable had the opportunity of retiring this coming autumn, and was mindful that he might do that, and I didn't want him to. The reason I didn't want him to is because we have Metis coming on board, which is going to save the authority a huge amount of money. He has that completely under his wing, and we need to ensure that that is delivered. And it's going to take at least 18 months to get it in place. And the savings are going to be colossal, so I didn't want to sort of suddenly have to start again with a new person. So we agreed that we could do that. There was a problem that it affected his pension. So we did get an agreement on that, and it was a win-win situation actually, because we kept him. We can obviously then make a lot of savings, and we also made savings on the fact that we're not paying for his pension in the future. So it was a real win-win situation. But he's actually more than comfortable and very pleased that we've done this. And as you probably know, he's so enthusiastic about the software we're going to introduce and the handheld smartphone that the customers are going to have. And I say that the savings of that are going to be colossal. And it's quite interesting that we in Cambridgeshire are tending to sort of blaze a trail on that. So we've got a lot of other police authorities looking at us to say, what are you doing? Can you tell us about it? And I am actually giving information out to other commissioners. And who knows, we may actually be able to save money by working with other people. But at the moment, that's just a possibility. But we have, and you may be interested to know, when the Home Secretary spoke to the Police Federation, she actually talked about Cambridgeshire and said that we were blazing a trail. And I thought that was quite a feather in our cap.
That's fine. Well, I just want to remind you, we're not just, our role is not just to scrutinise, but to support the effective role of both your role as the Police Commissioner. So we're obviously pleased that you managed to make arrangements with Chief Constable. Councillor Walsh.
Yes, on the subject of the Chief Constable, and after the event in Camborne, would you like to maybe brief us a little bit on his reaction to some of the work that came out of that day? I'm sure he would be supportive, but...
Well, I think the interesting thing about our day, which I did tell you about last time, and some of you, I'm very pleased, came along to listen to what we had to say, it has actually been a catalyst for a number of our partners to actually look at it again, to look at what they're doing, because we have a situation where we either change or we disappear in terms of working the community, because we still don't know yet what sort of funding is going to be available. And I think one of the most interesting outcomes was that Peterborough, who have been up front doing it, have now taken it on board that they want to investigate going further along the approach that Glasgow has taken. And that could be really interesting if they develop that, and it'd be a showpiece for the rest of authorities in Cambridgeshire. So I'm really thrilled that that happened. But the other good thing that's happened, and I know I worked on it beforehand, is that we now have all our partner authorities on eSIMs. And that, for the first time, means it's joined up and everyone knows what everyone else is doing. And that's going to help enormously in terms of tracking people and not having to double up and reinvent the wheel. And that was one of the things we talked about, and everybody signed up, every authority. I'm really thrilled about that.
Can I interrupt you there, Sir Graham?
Sure.
I'm conscious that you haven't been there, because when you use acronyms like that, they might wonder.
Don't ask me what it means.
No, I know it's at least one of the team.
It is. It's a piece of software which was actually developed in Norfolk, and is used by the police, and it's used by local authorities, particularly the housing side and public protection side, and it identifies people, so that if you have a person who has sort of fallen foul or caused problems for a local authority, is appealing because they're homeless, you can put their name into the system. Now, it doesn't give you every possible detail, but what it does do, it tells you, yes, NHS are interested in this guy, and housing authority is interested in it, and the local authority XYZ is interested in it. So it then means that you can phone them up and say, we've got this person, can we talk about him? So it's not there for everyone to see, it's not sort of an open plan thing, but it is very significant and I've seen the results, certainly in Fenlands, who were sort of the first ones out of the trap using it, plus of course some of the police areas were doing it, and it is proving helpful. And I know that having talked to those who've now got it, they can understand what it's all about and why it is so useful. I think the great prize was the fact that Cambridge City took it.
Yes,
the district they didn't want to, but they looked at it and said, "Yep, we're going for it." So that was marvellous.
I would suggest that if anybody wants to find out more information on that, because it is a district rating, you should find it on your community safety partnership online. Say it is a district thing with the police and with the district. So
we can always arrange for you to have a look at whether the authorities are like every authority now has got it, so all of your authorities have got that. And thank you to everyone who sort of piled in and got that underway.
I'll bring Jason in.
Thank you, Chairman. So Graham, I think I'd like to congratulate you on extending Simon's contract. I don't mean that in a cheesy way. It very much is playing a key part, not only in terms of delivery, I know, in terms of the police, but also at a very high strategic level in terms of local government as well, and leading on the Making Assets Count project. And that in itself needs some continuity going forwards if we're all going to see the benefits and the saving delivery across the board. And it's very easy to actually go, well, here's an opportunity. I mean, as a leader myself, I'll go around with a bag of carriage clocks now, because it's so easy to actually just say, well, actually, you're thinking of retiring, oh, you're fantastic, because you see the saving. But actually, strategically, in this instance, I think it's a good call.
I think that the other thing I did with that is to extend the contract to autumn of 2016, so that he will be there through the transition of the next election for commissioners. So the next commissioner, whoever that might be, can play a part in appointing the next chief constable. And I think that is good, rather than having someone presented to them. I think it really encouraging for us to do that. Irene did sort of ask what he thought about that day. He was absolutely so enthusiastic about it. He does tell me sometimes he has to run to keep up with me, but I think that we understand where we're both coming from now, and he really appreciated that day and the fact that we're trying to get the community to work together on those various projects. And it was only a start, because as I said at the time, it was there to show you what you could do. It was giving some benchmarks, and it was showing best practice. It's up to everyone to sort of take the path they want to take. But I think linking that in with what we've got with the software, and it was the other part which we did talk about there, was of course the software that we've now got for Neighbourhood Watch, which will dramatically make a difference in terms of how we engage with the public. It's a piece of software called Alert. Don't ask me to say what it means, other than it is alert. And it's actually a very, very good piece of software, because it was developed by the Home Office specifically for Neighbourhood Watch. It now enables them to administer themselves. But what it does do, it enables the police to input to that on a daily, ongoing basis what has been happening right across the county. So that Neighbourhood Watch people don't have to wait for a meeting in the village hall to find out what's happened. They know the very next morning whether there's been a burglary, whether there's been some antisocial behaviour or car stolen, or whatever the case might be. It's there for them to see. And the police can flag up if they're looking for extra information. So you can get feedback immediately on that. And there was such a big time lag before in the way in which it was organised. And I think the really good thing about it is that more people will get involved, because we've had business people say, well, I never had time for Neighbourhood Watch, but I can do this, because I can come on, belong to it, put the computer on in the morning and have a look. And of course there's a lot of concern about business crime, and so they've taken that on board. A lot of the parish councils said, my goodness, this is great, because we can be up to speed. Now it's going to be administered by They would watch, not us. You know, they've got that on board, they're very excited about it. But the other thing it does as well, it brings in people, again, who hadn't got time to belong or go to meetings in the evening, particularly young mums. And on the trial we did, where you've got young mums who hooked onto this, of course they go down to the school gates in the morning, and they're probably the best network is in the county. So everyone knows what is happening, and if we're trying to get information, then there's more chance of getting it than we had before. So I'm very excited about that. It's still not fully operational yet, but it's partly operational and it's being worked on, and will be within, I think, within the next month, we will be totally operational with that. And I think that's going to bring a lot of rewards to us.
Right, I also attended on that day, and there were obviously representatives from all over the United Kingdom there, but it was good to hear you Englishmen taking on something from Glasgow.
Well, I've got to say, that they were, the presentation they did was, it just blew us away. It was fantastic, it really was good.
Yes, thank you. I always forget you're a part-time Scotsman, Mac.
I'm back on the other week.
A question on Neighbourhood Watch. There is a sort of feeling within the community that is perhaps something that has passed its sell-by date to a certain extent. The initial sort of raft of Neighbourhood Watch ideas and panels and stuff were set up 25 years ago. Do you feel it's still relevant?
Yes, I think it's very relevant for the reason that I did what I did in persuading them to have the software, which didn't cost us anything actually, because the Home Office provided it. It cost us the license with the police in order for them to use it. That wasn't a fantastic amount of money. And my idea of doing that was to give it a new look, to bring new people in. And if you've got business people involved in it, young mums involved in it, and now one of the things I've always wanted to do is reach out to parish councils. It gives them instant view as to what's happening in their neighbourhood, and so they can in fact sort of get involved. And that I think gives a complete new lease of life. Now, we'll obviously be monitoring that, but my belief is in a year's time we're going to show quite clearly that we've been able to engage with the public in a far better way than we've ever done in the past. And that is what it's all about, because there are thousands of eyes and ears out there that can help the police giving information. We want to try and sort of attract them and tell them exactly what it is that we're looking for. If you've had difficulties in a particular village, and this comes up in waves, you know. If you've got everyone then looking out for it.
But are you convinced this is more than the Civic?
Oh, absolutely. In other parts of the country, I looked at it in Derbyshire, and they couldn't stop raving about it there. I mean, they're actually way underway. They've been underway for the last 9-10 months, and it has got so much more sort of involved. And the police find it extremely helpful, but so do the local authorities, because we're up front on everything that's happening and everyone can look at it. And that sort of, I was convinced it was going to be a good thing anyway. Having talked to someone who really used it, say in Derbyshire, and there you've got, in Derbyshire you've got obviously the larger cities, but lots of rural as well, and just like us. And so I say it hasn't cost us a fortune, because the software was absolutely free to everyone who's using it outside, and it cost us, I don't know how much off the hand, about £10,000 for the police to have a license to use it.
Will you be able to give specific figures as to the success of the scheme? What I mean by the success is clearly arrests that are made, because are directly down to Neighbourhood Watch, and not just people reporting crime that they've seen in their area. And clearly, we know the issues with rural communities, and we know the issues with policing in rural communities, and the ability for police to get to a crime scene from Cambridge or punished quickly enough or at all. And my worry is, although we have the ability to report crime, the ability to police the reported crime is actually the bigger problem.
But that's,
and I think that's where the proof of the pudding really is going to be.
yeah, that is why, sort of linked to that, was my big effort to make sure that the 101 number was answered promptly, because there was a problem with it. We now have got 95% of calls that go into 101 answered within 30 seconds. That's our target. And we intend to stick to that, maybe even improve on it. So that when the public have got something to say, they haven't got to hang on for, as it was, up to 10 minutes, you know, and it doesn't encourage people to actually be cooperative and help. So that sort of sits very much alongside it. It builds again on sort of getting the public involved and getting that information in. Very important.
I agree. I suppose what I'm trying to nail down is that there is a perception within rural communities that it's a waste of time phoning the police because they will not get there on time. They will get there when they can, and I appreciate that. But at the same time, it's all very well having these new schemes and new software, etc., but it's the perception police will get to a rural crime spot when a crime is reported that needs to be changed. So it's not just the software and new systems that need to be up there. There's a PR offensive that needs to go ahead as well.
Obviously, this is very much an operational matter, but if there is a crime taking place, then that gets full emergency treatment. If you're reporting that you saw some dodgy person having a look around the back of the shops, then the idea is you get the local car to come around and have a look, see what's going on. But if it's a crime taking place, then I say it gets full emergency. And we can get police to any spot really in Cambridgeshire, certainly within 4 or 5 minutes. But it's up to obviously the headquarters to make that judgment. It is an operational judgment to get there. And one of the other things you probably are aware that I have made clear is that, particularly when it comes to burglaries, I want to see, and we are actually producing this now, that the police do attend burglaries, because there was sort of a bit of backsliding and wait for a few days and go around and give them a crime number. But the police are now attending, and this enables them to actually identify the burglary, and often it's the same person, identify the person, and actually arrest them. And the best way to stop burglaries is to deal with the burglar and put him away for a while. So, you know, we are making progress on that front. There's a lot to be done joining all of this up, and it'll be even more sort of a joined up thing when we get the new software with all the police having a smartphone, with all that information coming in, because the interesting thing, whatever you put onto alert will go to them anyway, so they've got it there and then. And they don't only use that as a way of reporting back in and sending a report. And one of the things we're interested in doing is getting them to actually make their report while they're outside, so keep them outside. They can sit outside a coffee bar or in the car in the corner, but they're still going to be there. All of that is logged in the computer, and they can see what is happening around them as well as anyone else can. And it should not only save, well, it's going to save a huge number of man-hours. It is. I mean, the number I was given was something like 38,000 man-hours, which is incredible. So therefore, we're going to have a much more efficient force. And it is impossible. I've done lots of meetings, and people obviously want to see police with it. It's one of the things I'm desperate to ensure we do, which is why I did what I did with the precept, in order to keep the front line and increase them by 10, not that that's a lot spread over Cambridgeshire, but nevertheless it's a step in the right direction. But with the new setup, Arne and I have developed the name for it, and it's called a policeman in your pocket, because you take your iPhone out or whatever you've got, and you're there straight away, you're straight into the system. And that call goes straight in to the police computer. Interestingly, the detective side of the operations feel that information like that coming in can often lead a trail for them, and it can do it quite instantly because it's there instantly. If they've got a problem they're looking at or somewhere they're trying to track, and all of a sudden it bounces up somewhere else, it's going to help them. So the whole system should end up providing us with an opportunity to keep Cambridgeshire safe and make it safer and reduce crime. That's what it's all about.
Can I come in there? I've allowed that for one because it was an interesting point. I always had 6 questions. It changed the point. But it is a valid, it's an important point. I think
But I get enthusiastic.
Yeah, I understand that, and that's right. And that's part of what we're here for. So, but I do think it is important, the point that James has made, that whatever systems you introduce, hopefully the outcome is going to be a reduction in crime. Otherwise, you know, you just want to...
And they want to monitor it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. But I would also suggest, James, and to other members, that there is an opportunity, and I think we should use it also for our crime reduction partnership to also bring this issue up about, you know, whether or not neighbourhood watches are working, because if there's a perception in some areas they're not, because there's a poor response time. And there are other forums in which we ought to also explore that, where the police are actually in the forum with us. So
that will happen. I mean, the Cambridge Business Against Crime, for instance, sort of linking this, they were quite, not just quite, they were very enthusiastic about it. So we'll be reaching out not just to Neighbourhood Watch, but to other people. And I say the other thing I keep saying, this is the parish council, the parish clerk, be quite bang up to date.
I've got, I think if I've got this right, I've got Mike, Irene and Ben waiting now. So Mike, is it on this same subject area? Because there's a number of other areas that we'd like to cover, but if it's on a different one.
It's relating what's recently been said. 3 points. One, I would be amazed if you could get to Keystone in 5 minutes from Huntington. 2, I'm concerned about what you said regarding information automatically recorded and popping up, because I've had experience of systems where the whole operation has just collapsed under the weight of information, unfiltered, that has just come in, and therefore you're getting irrelevant information which just slows you down. My third question is, and I apologise, I'm a new boy, so if I'm asking silly questions, I'll learn and then ask silly questions in an experienced way. Whether there's a difference between alert and ECOPS, from which I get useful information and feed information on a regular basis now.
Totally different. Alert is out there, which is driven by Neighbourhood Watch, it's there for the public. eSINs is not for the public. It's for the partners. Oh, sorry, ECOPS. No, ECOPS is a separate thing. I haven't got involved in that. That is there, and it was there. It's not part of my jurisdiction to get involved.
But I get information overnight.
Fine.
There was a burglary at number 48.
Fine. Well, you'll do a lot better once we get alert going. And I'd recommend it to you. We can always just, give you a sort of show on that.
No, thank you.
Thank you. I've got Irene next, then Ben, and then is it Andrea?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'd like to ask about the area of victim support, because I know that Civic has referred to this on a few occasions, and I think you were going to do something in conjunction with Neighbourhood Watch. Has that been built into the scheme, or you were talking about an immediate response to?
I mean, that is a little bit away yet. We've obviously got to deal with that. And the whole question of victim support, that comes to me anyway next year, all of it. And Dorothy and I are working very hard on that as to how we put it all together. And interestingly, at the seminar we had, Barriers Newland, of course, who's the Commissioner for Victim Support. But linking in with Neighbourhood Watch is going to take a little bit of time, because what I want to try to do there is, and it is up to the individuals, because Neighbourhood Watch is totally a voluntary operation, is if we can find people who are prepared to have a bit of training on how to deal with victims. The idea is that instead of waiting 4 or 5 days before it all clicks in, if you've got, supposing a burglary in a village that's affected possibly an elderly person, it's so distressing. It's distressing for anyone to have a burglary done. To, instead of waiting for some days before you get to someone come alongside you, have a local person from Neighbourhood Watch, probably a neighbour anyway, just to go around and chat to them, and they've all been trained. We obviously can't do that without training. So it does need some training. And when I get control of the whole victim support programme, we can build that in and put some effort into training people across the county. But it will take a little bit of a while to build that up, because there's going to be an awful lot of people that we have to work with.
Colleagues, before I bring Ben in, and then Andrea, I'm going to remind you what we're about here. Agenda item 6 is reviewing and especially scrutinising decisions taken by the Commission, not to go into
We've
too
gone off
much.
the rails.
And I've allowed that because I think sometimes interesting points come out into people's minds. We want the opportunity, well, we've got the Commissioner here to ask them, but we are really looking at those, whether or not we are content or otherwise with those decisions, and whether or not we want to further scrutinise them. So, again, just to bring us back on. Are you indicating, Paul? Yeah, I'll bring Ben in then, and then Andrew and then Paul.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I kind of wish you'd have said that after my...
All I'm going to ask you is not to go on too long.
No.
Well, encourage the ground to go through.
I'm the one that's taking too long.
Well, two things. Briefly, the first thing is about the Neighbourhood Watch. And I don't feel necessarily it needs to be measured by success, necessarily, of an outcome. The idea, as I see it, is about encouraging reporting. If, for example, you encourage be more encouraging of reporting, you get 100 calls that may be totally irrelevant, but you might just get that one thing that just links something together. And I think that's the important, and that's the way I would be looking at doing that.
Absolutely. That's a comment rather than a question.
Yeah.
And it's the right
view.
The second point I just made is on just business crime. In South Cambs we did a piece of work with a dedicated officer, a dedicated PCO. South Cambs was a victim of rural business crime. Because we did that piece of work over the last year, it's reduced by about 30% within the last year, 18 months. So it just goes to show, with some support, it can work.
Absolutely.
Andrea.
I do actually have a question other than a comment, apologies, but with all this discussion about the collection of data and reporting, obviously it raises data protection issues. So if you could speak a bit to that, and then also questions of due process in terms of obviously making sure that people are actually convicted of crimes, for example, for actions taken.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of data protection, obviously we're right on the side of the law. It's not just us doing this, other authorities are doing it as well. It is something that, when I first heard about it, I was a bit concerned about and wanted to see it, and wanted to see what information was there for everyone to see, well, not everyone to see, but the authorities to see. And it does do exactly as I said. If you put a name in, it just identifies who that person has been in contact with. And if you've got someone who's perhaps is homeless and got a drug problem, it flags up. The NHS have already taken them on board, housing associations have already taken them on board, social services have taken them on board, so you can see that immediately. And it gives you the opportunity to contact them and take it forward. It doesn't give you all the information at all, what particular problem was. It just identifies the person and the partner that's actually got an interest in it. And so we're not giving anything away. I mean, it is only for local authorities and partners to use this. It's not for the public. But even if the public saw it, it wouldn't actually tell them anything.
I mean, if I may say, I mean, the eSINs has been through each organisation.
That's right.
That's exactly what each organisation has asked. It's not a database which is run by the Office of the Police and Crime Commissioner. We don't have access to it ourselves. We don't use it. It's your partner organisations who've looked at it, considered those issues, and agreed to go ahead with it.
Yes,
So it's not our system.
It's not administered by us. None of the software I've been talking to you about is administered by us.
Yeah, I think that's understood.
We just use it.
I'm going to bring Paul in, and then I'd like to, if I may,
Just a
come
question.
back onto the
Information on Mr. Graham. I noticed one of the decisions you made was to approve the lease of Port St Ives Police Station to Cambridgeshire County Council. Well, St Ives is my division. I don't know who owns the police station, but also I'm a representative now of the county council. I just wondered, I'm assuming from this that the police own the building and that they now lease part of it to the county council. I just like confirmation of ownership and why part of it is being moved.
I'm going to ask Councillor as he deals with that side of things.
Right.
Thank you very much. As you'll appreciate, the police, along with every other form of public authority, is deeply concerned about the cost of its estate relative to its utility. And so through the Making Assets Count that Jason alluded to earlier is one of the examples of processes that exist to try and make certain that that estate across the whole of the county is utilised by each of us in the way that tries to minimise costs and therefore save effort and so forth. And it's under that programme that the police have leased to the Cambridgeshire County Council a chunk of that building. And they are paying, under the agreed terms set out in that process, to us, instead of paying to some other body that would be probably outside the authority's public sector, thereby helping to reduce our budget whilst helping to enable the county council to... So the whole thing has got a circularity to it, which is very helpful. And I'm sure it'll be an increasing feature of many items over the years as we move forward.
Right, that essentially has brought us back on to the decision. Before I...
You have to be tougher with this.
I am. No, but I think it's useful, particularly we've got new members here today to grant, but, you know, to give them...
I get too enthusiastic, carry on.
Due respect, Mr. Chairman, the new members are the only ones who structure it. 80 members, yes.
Right. Before we actually do, can I just double check on your decisions in regard to section 22A, because in relation to Hertfordshire, who has it now changed? Hertfordshire now decided that they're not going to be part of the section 22A agreement?
No,
no change.
What happened with Hertfordshire, and I actually was chairing that meeting when they decided that they didn't want to sort of go any further forward. They want to, as I understand it, put their back office operation elsewhere.
With the game.
But we ring-fence the agreement. So that stays absolutely there in terms of dealing with the operational side of things. And what is more, the door is open to go further. The point they made, they didn't want to collaborate anymore on back office operations. But we, on behalf of ourselves and Bedfordshire, wanted to make sure that what we had was doing well, it saved us money, it had you know, bettered the operation, and so it's still there.
It was just something I think we
sure.
David already saying on something.
Yeah.
So we're actually asked to scrutinise these decisions. Oh, sorry, Councillor Conn, you want to come in?
Yes, Chair. I just would want further information, particularly on these two items.
Well, this is the point I was coming to.
Right.
If we want further information on these, and if we want the opportunity to scrutinise them, as I said at the start of the meeting, read this agenda, we really need to give notice that we want to do it properly. You do not have sufficient information in these papers. So that's really what I'm about to say. Are there any of these decisions which we want to take further and look at them? So is it on that same sort of line?
Yeah, it is. I think the collaborative working stuff, especially, so that would be the item of agreements to create further collaboration with beds, with dog units, things like that. But actually more so on the 25th of April with Bedfordshire, Cambridgeshire, to deal with functions of cameras, tickets and collisions. I've recently had some dealings with this on a personal nature, and I'm pleased to say it wasn't a camera or a ticket. It actually was where somebody had run into me while I was in the car park, and luckily someone had taken the information. I won't go into huge detail, But having reported it to my local police station, who then informed me, well, we don't do this anymore, Hertfordshire does. Filled out reports, thus big. I then got some very generic information about 2 weeks later from Hertfordshire that actually required all the same information. And I think in terms of collaboration, the whole point is to actually reduce paperwork, reduce these sort of streams, and actually be more effective and cost effective, most importantly. So I think in these areas, I would like some more information.
That we actually look further at Section 22A agreements that we have with the other. Yeah.
So, sorry, can I just clarify, is it the Section 22 agreement as in how we collaborated, or something about the performance of those units?
I think it's
Sounds like
it's the performance, actually, rather than the agreement itself. As a principle of the agreement, I don't think anyone would have an issue with it. Collaboration is happening.
The principle of collaboration is fine.
Yeah.
Performance. And is that a similar point?
It's a similar point. Maybe I'll need to go slightly further, because I would want to have some kind of information regarding the human resource, whether you move in the offices, what they should be, and what is the implication of that. And I think that needs to be in that, maybe a true side, a true A4 side information, where we are, or were, and where we're going to be once you make that decision. If you're going to have a joint working relationship with who's going to be charged and how that function. And I'll think about Jason said.
We can certainly provide that, because one of the things that both Brian and myself are concerned about is that if you have a joint operation, you then don't set up 3 different
so Graham, if I can interrupt you, what I'm going to suggest is that we invite you to bring
we can
a paper to our next meeting and give us the opportunity.
There's a good point.
It is a good point, but let's do it properly and through. So
I measure it
the
from the
opportunity
bottom
to read the
line.
papers, read the background to it, and then give you the opportunity to question. Ben,
yeah, it's on this point actually, Chair, and that was what I was going to ask originally, is the decisions that are made, surely it's for us to decide beforehand, before we get to this meeting, as to whether we need to further scrutinise the decision. The point being is that we've had this a week or so before. I didn't know about half of these. I'm sure it's on the website or something.
I think there's a bit of confusion here, Ben, and I'll look to the officers to sort out. These are decisions that the police commissioner has taken, as it's his responsibility to take them. We have the opportunity, they're now listed, and we have the opportunity now to scrutinise those decisions. They're not overview, he's not submitting them to us in advance of, so it's not overview, it's our opportunity to scrutinise them and make reports, and it's entirely up to the commissioner as to whether or not he takes that following our scrutiny, any recommendations we wish to take on board. So I believe that this is the right way round we're receiving. That's why I'm trying to say, let's not spend a lot of time actually trying to do the scrutiny now. We don't have enough background information. But select any of those decisions that we feel we want to scrutinise further.
Sorry, Chairman, perhaps I wasn't explaining myself fully, but when these decisions are made, is there a process that we can be told after they've been made, before we come to the actual agenda?
In some cases, I think in probably most cases, that we have had.
It's already been
made is that if, rather than waiting to today to say we'd like to scrutinise that, if we could have said it in advance, we could have been discussing it now. I think that's the point that Ben's making, rather than waiting until July.
So, I mean, we do the business plan that's coming to that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Would it be possible to, when this report comes to us, to also have as appendices, as is usual in, scrutiny meetings and this kind of thing, within appendices of the background to each of these decisions, so that when we get the paper, we also get that information in the paper. And we may or may not want to bring up items in the meeting. But if we do...
Yeah, and I take the point. I mean, some of them clearly have, but I mean, we received a report on the... did we actually receive it, or was it just made public on the Chief Constable's position, I think?
I mean, the office notify your office each time you make a decision. The link that you've got here links to a decision-making notice, and that decision-making notice has got the background papers. So links within this are, we've got, so these links do take you through.
Sorry, but it just gets a little bit, you know, much for us when you consider the paperwork. But if it can, maybe Alex could come up with a...
Well, what we're going to do at Rate is that when any notice of decisions have come through, then we're going to make sure that we circulate those to members, not rely on you looking on the Police Commissioner's website to find out. That will hopefully inform us more when we come to this decision as to then whether we want to further scrutinise.
So presumably then at that point, Alex circulates it to us, for example, Ben on that occasion thought, I'd like to know more detail. He can say to Alex, could we look in more detail?
That seems reasonable.
And it keeps the whole process moving.
That seems sensible. Everybody? Okay.
Well, I think what we need is a summary, as we do with the scrutiny,
which is the appendix.
You just have an appendix or a summary of just the rationales and background. It doesn't need to be huge amounts.
Which helps you to make a decision whether you want.
Just that. I think in terms of when we decide to scrutinise, I think that's surely got to be a decision for our panel as a whole. Because we could very well have individuals who have their own bailiwick to kick around. And actually, you're then spending a whole meeting discussing something that might actually be quite minor. And I think strategically, because the police and crime panel covers so many areas, so many different aspects of police and crime prevention, I think to have some rationale so you can come to the meeting with a predetermined view that you may want more information on this. But I think for individuals just to wing an email saying, well, actually, I want to look at this in detail, I think it's a decision for this panel.
I would expect the panel to make the decision we want as a panel to scrutinise it. But what you've got is some of the background information, so that you come into this meeting informed. That's a bit more informed that you're getting simply the headline types. So you content with that, Gary? Yeah, how you can sort that out. Are you content with that?
Yeah, I mean, the information is there, your office will provide it to the panel.
Okay, and on that basis then, can I move us on, because we've got agreement on that, to whatever item 7 is? Oh, meeting date and work programme. Put that in front of you. The next meeting is the 18th of July. I guess the police and crime plan is a plan, not a plan.
It's a panel. Police and crime.
Panel, so that's a panel, not a plan or a place?
It's a police and crime plan.
Plan. I was right.
Sorry, and I mean, our expectations on that page was the feedback around the performance framework and the update mechanisms, which was mentioned at the last meeting.
Okay. The annual report is... The annual report.
It is the annual report, which we have a duty to share a copy with yourselves, which we will have.
And a review of complaints, and we're going to add to it, if there's any item on here which we would like to scrutinise. We did section 22A. Because that's already been done. Anything else on that forward plan that colleagues want to raise? Irene.
Yes, Jason. I know we did go off the agenda, but the agenda was pretty small today, so, you know, we have a line. We had time to do the tolerance. But I can see a place, perhaps, for an agenda item which is around those community safety concerns that we all have, and things which are happening that we just want an update on. And maybe it's sort of the last item on each agenda.
Standing item on.
A sort of catch-up, you know, informal catch-up on things that we were raising within the main agenda, which admittedly we shouldn't. But it is important for us to hear that. Open session? Yeah.
It is an open session.
Yeah. If the Commissioner would be willing. Yeah.
I think we have to recognise that, you know, the Police Commissioner is here by invite, wouldn't necessarily be here every time if he didn't need to, but possibly either himself or the deputy could actually come to, so we need to be aware who it is you want to get that update from. Yes. You want to get it verbally from the Police Commissioner, and it would mean that if it's a standing item, you'd have to appear in front of the living room. There's no requirement to do that. So I have to remind you that he's here by invitation.
Yes. Well, perhaps if it came under A or B,
the police commissioner wants to present something to us. Just take that into account. Yes?
Isn't the danger there, sorry Chair, that just opens it up for a general debate and you go off, we could spend an hour going through the agenda. I can see what you're saying, but then we could spend another hour, hour and a half,
Oh, no,
just
you're
like
not
we did earlier.
My idea there is it's a quick
Time.
timed session of, you know, just general sort of questions, maybe an A or B item, and if the commissioner is not here, well then we don't ask that question to him. If he's here, we do.
I mean, it is amazing. I mean, the committee does work under the terms of reference of the county council, and I think the majority of those, I'm not clear of those, but it'd be interesting to go back to those to see how the A and B
If it ties in, yeah, that's fair enough.
Might it be good, Mr Chairman, an idea to put an AOB on there, but items only notified and included to the chairman after we've had the meeting pre-reading. So we get the pre-reading, we look at it, we contact you guys and say we would like these items put on the AOB.
I personally prefer AOB to be notified items.
Yeah.
Mike, are you looking to give me some?
I think, if I going off piece, sorry, going off piece again, so forgive me. I think you've got such a collection of people here in the room. I can understand the desire to have the discussions that's been suggested by Councillor Lucas. The trouble is, the formal role of the panel is to scrutinise the commissioner. I just wonder if you blur the two, there might be a problem. And so it's about accepting that you have such a strong selection of individuals, but it's almost like you might want to have an informal meeting following the formal structure of the panel.
Can I have a chat with Mike and Gary later on? Outside of this meeting as to how we might meet your objectives, but at the same time not blur what our particular role is.
I think we also, we also need to be very clear that as very helpful point yet is that we are about scrutinising the commissioner. A lot of the things that we have talked about today are in danger of slipping into operational matters, which aren't for the commissioners to be engaged in and aren't for us to scrutinise. And I think we just need to be careful.
I think it's also worth reminding ourselves that I appreciate the independent members won't necessarily be involved in that, but we do have the community partnerships, we do have the crime reduction partnerships and the overall community safety board, to which many of these items are probably best dealt with. So, and in case anybody didn't know who Mike was, Mike, just by quick introduction.
Sorry, apologies,
Chair. We do have
Director of Community Engagement with the County Council supporting Barry in the Royal
So I'll have a chat with you both afterwards and see how we can manage this in a way that doesn't detract from our principal role, which is to support and to scrutinise the police commissioner, and don't broaden our remit too much. Okay. So otherwise you're content with the agenda plan?
Can I just say, Chair, I think when we look at the plan and the progress report next time, it may be helpful for us to then look at, well, are there any things that we want to look at in a bit more detail again? For me, one of the things, particularly we've talked a lot today about community engagement, which I think is really important, and you know, we don't need to remind the Commissioner of the importance of the community knowing what's happening. I wonder whether people would find it helpful, I personally would find it helpful to maybe have a daily item around communications, to look at the communication strategy of the Commissioner's office, and you know what is in train to
specific report on that. I'm happy to have that on the agenda if you're happy. Probably falls within your.
May I just also mention the report back on collaboration? The next meeting is on the 18th, which means papers will have to be with you in about a week to meet the kind of 2-week deadline. Would it be okay if we bring back collaboration information in November? It would be very tight to try and get something back to the 18th of July.
I don't think members are particularly precious about it coming to the July meeting, as long as we get it in a way. Yeah, have it done properly. Yeah. Yeah, no, we're content with that. Right. There's no other matters then? Colleagues, I will meet closed. Thank you.